Please be seated. Graduates, families, friends, faculty, staff, honored guests, welcome to the Thayer School of Engineering at Dartmouth's 2026 Investiture. My name is Doug Van Sitters. I'm the incoming Dean of the Thayer School of Engineering at Dartmouth, and I'm honored to serve as your Master of Ceremonies today. We need to do that at every faculty meeting going forward. Let me be the first to say congratulations to the class of 2026. At tomorrow's commencement ceremony, Dartmouth will award a record 287 engineering degrees from Thayer, including 114 for the Bachelor of Engineering, 46 of whom are earning the AB and the BE simultaneously. A record 74 for the Master of Engineering degrees, including 24 who are earning the BE and the MEng simultaneously, and the first graduate to earn both an MEng from the Thayer School and an MBA from the Tuck School of Business. 57 from the Master of Engineering Management, 8 for the Master of Science, and a record 34 PhDs in engineering sciences. In addition, Dartmouth will award 107 degrees for the Bachelor of Arts in Engineering Sciences. I also want to highlight a few of our milestones. Among our MEng graduates is the inaugural cohort of our fully online degree in computer engineering. More than half of this group has traveled to Hanover, some from as far as Japan and Brazil, to walk this stage today and tomorrow. And for the third year in a row, the MEM program will award more than half of its degrees, 57% in fact, to women. We have a lot to celebrate. I'd like to take a moment to introduce our faculty and distinguished guests joining us today. To my right, Maria Clave, President of Math for America and our Fletcher Award recipient. Professor Jeff Parker, Faculty Director of the Irving Institute for Energy and Society. Professor Vicki May, Associate Dean for Undergraduate Education. Professor Eugene Santos, Director of the Master of Engineering Program. Professor Vikrant Vaze, Executive Director of the Master of Engineering Management Program. You don't have your degrees yet. To my left, Provost Santiago Schnell, Dartmouth Trustee Will Griffith, Thayer Board of Advisors Chris McKenna, and Thayer Board of Advisors Catherine Asborn Valdez. And behind us are esteemed engineering faculty and senior academic leadership. I also want to recognize the marshals who led the procession. Our faculty marshal, Professor Yan Lee, newly appointed Associate Professor of Engineering, and student marshals, PhD candidate Simon Agnew, MEM candidate Mitchell Belor, MEng candidate Emily Marciniak, and BE candidate Noemi Misropian. I have the privilege of introducing our next speaker, Provost Santiago Schnell, who will deliver welcoming remarks. An internationally renowned mathematical biologist and Oxford-trained scholar, he serves as Dartmouth's Chief Academic Officer and oversees the university's graduate and professional schools. Please welcome Provost Schnell.
Thank you, Doc. Really appreciate it. Graduates, families, faculty, and friends, welcome. And congratulations to the class of 2026. And as well to thank Will. So you probably don't know this, but we, the faculty and the leaders, we grant the degrees on behalf of the Board of Trustees. So we're very pleased that we have a member of the Board of Trustees representing the board. Now, let me tell you one thing. So today, you're going to be here about a future that none of us can picture, about the reasons of why we need to take that future to heart. Because Dartmouth has formed you in a way that is broadly in the liberal art, as well in engineering, to meet what cannot be foreseen. Before you do that, so I want you to take a counsel in the name of the lineage that you carry, out of this hole into something firmer that is going to give you reassurance when you leave Dartmouth and go into life. Let me begin with a single word: engineering. Engineer. You can hear engine into the word. You can picture the machine. But the word is much older than any machine that we know. It comes down from us from the old French and the medieval Latin. It comes from the Latin word ingenium, the natural capacity, inborn talent, the inventive turn of the mind. Before an engineer was somebody who actually tended an engine. An engineer was a person of ingenium, which actually in English is ingenious, a contriver, a maker of new things, who make those things first in the mind. That is the oldest sense of your title. And it's also the sense in the Thayer meaning. Look back at the first engineers of our time, of your lineage, and you will find them that there were no narrow minds. Burleschini raised the dome over Florence as an engineer and an artist at once. And a well-known figure, Leonardo da Vinci, the one that everyone remembers. He drew flying machines, dissected the human body, painted the Last Supper, and he saw no walls between all those things. Engineering wasn't born in a silo. It was born inside what the Greeks call encyclopedia, the encyclopedia, the full circle of learning. You are the heirs of that circle. You stand on the liberal side as much as an engineering. For an engineer, the liberal arts are not a supplement. Actually, the original form of the word. Now the danger. The deepest risk that we have today is the technical mind of the rabbit hole of the specialization. The brilliant technician who burrows so far down into the tunnel that he can no longer climb out to another one. In the age of AI, sharpens that point. The technical labor can be done by AI. Quick calculations, code, retrieval of what is already known, that can increase the summon from a machine. AI is superb at that rabbit hole, the rabbit hole of the technical aspects. But what the machine cannot do is decide which tunnel is worth actually digging. It cannot carry the insight from one tunnel to the other one. It cannot answer what it builds, and it cannot supply the humanity. The scariest thing in the new era is the decisive human thing, and that's not longer the technical answer. It's the connection, the judgment, the conscience around it. As Leibniz once wrote, the one who can connect all things can do more than 10 who cannot. Hold that against for a moment. When 10 people worth of technical work can be conjured in a machine in seconds, that's what AI can do. The one who connects is not worth less. He's going to worth much more. That's what your education is for. You were trained not to live in one rabbit hole. You were trained to climb out and to move between mathematics and ethics, between circuits and a poem, between a problem and the human being that it meant to serve. You do that by habit, because you have done it here again and again. That mobility is the one instrument in your kit that cannot be ever automated by a machine. That connections and the connections that you will be able to make, they are yours. The humanity is yours. Robert Heinlein, a science fiction writer and engineer, put it very bluntly. He would say, specialization is for insects. You are not an insect. You are an engineer in the oldest and the fullest sense of the word. People with ingenium, a school in the whole circle of learning. Take it to heart. Technology will ever be changing in the ways that none of us will ever be able to imagine. But you were made for that challenge. Today, you not only merely are collecting credentials here, you are taking a title older than every machine that we will ever know in the humanity. And now you are joining the company of Burleschini and Leonardo da Vinci. Congratulations, class of 2026.
Thank you, Provost Schnell. This year, we're excited to welcome 2 graduating student speakers, each bringing a unique perspective from their time at Dartmouth. Our first speaker, Naisha Sinha, is part of our inaugural graduating cohort of Dartmouth's fully online degree, Master of Engineering in Computer Engineering. While working in industry, Naisha saw how rapidly AI and emerging technologies were reshaping the field and chose Dartmouth to deepen her understanding of AI and how to apply it responsibly. From her home near San Francisco, while also working full-time at Siemens, Naisha took classes alongside classmates in Japan, Brazil, Germany, Seattle, Orlando, and beyond. And over the past year, she served as the TA for natural language processing in the Smart Sensor Capstone Design course, supporting her fellow online engineering students. She co-founded Anatomy, a caregiving documentation and support platform. She launched this through support from alumni in the Dartmouth Entrepreneurs Network. She earned her Bachelor of Science in Electrical Engineering from UCLA, and tomorrow she will earn her Master of Engineering in Computer Engineering from Dartmouth. Please welcome Naisha Sinha.
Good morning, everyone. First off, I would like to thank the Thayer faculty, Dean Van Sitters, Provost Schnell, members of the Thayer Board of Advisors, and the Dartmouth Board of Trustees. I'm truly honored to be here celebrating this milestone with all of you, and celebrating my first time stepping foot on this campus. I'm just kidding, it's actually my second time. So, as Dean Van Sitters mentioned, I completed my entire master's degree, every lecture, lab, and frantic deadline from my home in California, thousands of miles away. And yet, here I am, somehow standing in front of all of you, which either means that Dartmouth has a very generous definition of the term student, or that belonging to the Dartmouth community has never really been about geography. When I enrolled in the inaugural online cohort, I was also working full-time as a hardware verification and support engineer. My classroom became my laptop screen, my campus a time zone. And my classmates, well, they were a group of people I never physically met, scattered all across the world, probably very caffeinated, and all somehow convinced this was a good idea. And we were right, though I'll admit I had my doubts. Online programs carry a certain reputation. You join, watch some videos, and you move on. What happened instead was that our faculty mailed us hardware kits, FPGAs, Arduinos, and all the wires and resistors one could dream of. They set up robots on the Dartmouth campus and let us program them remotely, meaning that while I was sitting at home during Professor Coco's course, I was simultaneously navigating a maze-solving robot from thousands of miles away, troubleshooting with both classmates online and with faculty and students on campus. The difference was intention. This program was designed so that distance could never be an issue. Dartmouth chose to see the word online as a design constraint to be solved, and that changed my definition of engineering. We talk about engineering as problem solving, which it absolutely is, but those problems that matter most are never solved alone. They're solved by people like Professor Santos, who stayed in it with us as we built a financial query summarization system from scratch in natural language processing. Like Professor Odame, whose smart sensor design course had us building an ECG cardiac analysis system with teammates that we never met in person. Like Professor Farnham, who would find time to hop on a Zoom call when I was stuck on an FPGA timing problem at 9 p.m. Different distances, but same instinct. Engineering is not just a solution, it's the community that makes it possible. At Dartmouth, where the university where the term AI was first coined, I experienced something that was truly human, genuine connection, all while learning about AI. I came into this program thinking I was going to learn about circuits and technical frameworks, and I did. But I also learned that connection is something you build, creatively and across whatever constraints exist, and that engineers who understand that will always build something more durable than those who don't. So, to my cohort, we had no idea what we were getting into, but it worked out in our favor, and I couldn't have asked for a better group to figure it out with. To the faculty, staff, and program directors, thank you for refusing to let online mean distant. You built a community out of late-night Zoom calls and packaging tape, and for that, we'll be forever grateful. And to every graduate on the Green today, whether you're earning your Bachelor's of Engineering, your Master's, or your PhD, wherever you go from here, carry that community with you, because Dartmouth's community is unlike any other. Thank you.
Thank you, Nisha. You could say that our next speaker, Piper Gilbert, has been setting her sights on the many wonders of the universe, from stars to rockets to moons to Mars. Piper explored all of it during her undergraduate studies in engineering and astronomy at Dartmouth. She co-founded Dartmouth's first amateur rocketry team. In Professor Robin Millen's lab, she developed hardware for citizen-run observations of Earth's magnetic field. She studied abroad in Cape Town, South Africa, analyzing Lyrae stars while meeting a lot of penguins. More recently, she served as team lead and systems engineer for Flora, a flywheel-based lunar power architecture her team designed and pitched to NASA just last week at the 2026 NASA Rascal competition. Piper is currently pursuing her Master of Engineering Management at Dartmouth, which she will earn at next year's commencement, and tomorrow she will earn her Bachelor of Engineering. Please welcome Piper Gilbert.
Thank you, DVC. I'm honored to be here today amongst my fellow graduates, family, and our esteemed faculty and staff today. I gave around 100 tours of Dartmouth during undergrad. Walking across the Green, I got asked a lot of questions. Most of them were about the food. Many were about the community at Thayer. To that, I answered, Thayer is collaborative, warm. People here help each other. But no applicant ever dared ask the question, tour guide, why did you stick with engineering when you felt like you were bad at it? Because at first, I was. I had come to Dartmouth to study astronomy and history, to look up and out, to trace how we got here and what's still out there. Engineering is, in many ways, the opposite instinct, scrutinizing parts on a workbench and asking how to build it. I picked it partly because I wanted to be challenged, and partly, honestly, because Thayer's people pulled me in before I fully understood what I was signing up for. My first term in engineering, I struggled through Engines 20. One night, in a Great Hall booth, demoralized by a puzzle I couldn't crack, I was about one line away of giving away from engineering entirely. Two classmates I didn't know yet sat down, compared wrong answers, laughed, and stayed with me. By dawn, none of us had mastered the assignment, but we had learned Thayer's rule: admit you're lost and be each other's tour guide. The Great Hall booths, I'm convinced, are not study spaces. They're a kind of confessional. They're where Thayer students admit, quietly, and sometimes very loudly, in the case of me and my friends, that they don't understand the problem. Over many years of, I don't get it, and hey, me neither, and wait, say that again? The geometry of who owns a problem set flattens out into something that looks a lot like a community. The thing this school is secretly best at is making it safe to be lost in front of others. When I was 18, I thought that engineering was a discipline of mastery, that somewhere in my classes I would unlock the magic and start whipping up incredible things in SolidWorks or writing flawless unit tests in MATLAB. It isn't, or at least that never happened for me. Good engineers are humble and imperfect. They've gotten comfortable being wrong in front of each other, out loud, frequently, constantly. The booths are not places you visit once. They are places you keep coming back to on different sides of the table. The person who needs help and the person who gives it are the same person on different Tuesdays. Every term, a new cast of characters, a different partner on a different project, a different professor I hadn't met yet, a different friend of a friend staring at the same problem set I had stared at 2 years earlier. The booths never changed, but I did. Freshman year, I couldn't have told you how a power grid worked. A week ago, with some of my best friends, I pitched one to NASA for the moon base. Somewhere between those two sentences is a booth, or 2, or 5, and a whole lot of people who sat down and joined me. So why did I stay in something I struggled with? Not because of grit, not because I had some clear vision of who I'd become. I stayed because a booth was open and people sat down with me, and not one of them ever made me feel like the struggling version of myself was the permanent one. Soon enough, the booths will fill again with students we'll never meet. We will go forth into our lives and careers. Whatever comes, remember to sit down across from a stranger who is stuck. Be the applicant and the tour guide in equal measure. Design the project and the community. This is what we leave behind. Not what we built here, but how we sat with each other while we were building it. So I'm saying this now, on behalf of everyone. Thank you for sitting down.
Thank you, Piper. It's now my pleasure to recognize students and members of our community for their achievements and distinguished service. When your name is called, please use the ramp on either side, pause for a photo after receiving your award, and exit using the center ramp. The George Austin Colligan Memorial Prize goes to an undergraduate engineering sciences major in recognition of outstanding performance in materials science. This year's prize goes to John Carlos Llorena, who earned a 3.9 GPA with 5 A's, 4 of them in graduate-level materials science courses. He will soon join Professor Geoffroy Hautier at Rice University as an NSF Graduate Research Fellow. The Faculty Award for Academic Excellence goes to the student with the highest academic performance in the Bachelor of Engineering program. This year's prize goes to Paul Jacob Griffiths, who has earned the highest GPA of his BE class. PJ has excelled through his time at Thayer, winning the Jackson Prize early on as part of the Engines 21 team that developed Polyprint, which created 3D printed filaments from recycled plastic cups. A percussionist for Dartmouth Coast Jazz Orchestra, PJ also conducted research in Professor Mayfield's Sustainable Transition Lab. Congratulations. The Dartmouth Society of Engineers Prize is awarded for outstanding performance in an engineering project by a Bachelor of Engineering student or student team. This year's prize goes to 2 recipients. The first award goes to Callista Adler. The second award goes to the Engine's 8990 team of Alexander Zhelezkov, Elijah Butler, Victory Kumbula, Nathan Tamkin, Rory McDowell, and Jacob Marcus. Callista led a nanoparticle-based drug delivery project aimed at improving cystic fibrosis therapies. She demonstrated technical skills, creativity, and perseverance of more experienced researchers. Callista is a Goldwater Scholar who will pursue her PhD at UC San Diego. The Engine's 8990 team partnered with the Hood Museum and the Art History Department to restore and preserve a medieval rose window built with 66 stones weighing nearly a ton. They 3D scanned every stone and developed algorithms to determine optimal arrangement, balancing historical accuracy, aesthetics, and structural integrity. Congratulations. The Charles F. and Ruth D. Goodrich Prize is awarded to a second-year PhD student in recognition of outstanding achievement with special emphasis on academic excellence. This year's prize goes to PhD Innovation Fellow Jono Pelusi, who completed his coursework, passed the qualifying exam, joined an Innovation Accelerator team, and was co-first author on a paper published in Advanced Material Technologies, all while serving as an assistant coach of Dartmouth's pole vault team. He recently presented at the annual Biomedical Engineering Society meeting and will soon present at the Gordon Research Seminar and Conference. Congratulations, Jono. The Corporate Collaboration Council Engineering Management Prize honors outstanding performance in the Engineering 390 internship and project held by a Master of Engineering Management degree candidate. This year's prize goes to Sarthak Badamkar, who, during his internship at Zipline, a California-based autonomous drone delivery company, architected and built Zipline's global drone deployment program, creating the tools, analytics, and frameworks for complex launches across several continents. The impact earned him a full-time role as a launch and scale associate at the company's San Francisco headquarters. Congratulations, Sarthak. The Carolyn Henderson Prize is awarded to the Master of Engineering Management degree graduate for highest academic achievement and outstanding service. This year's prize goes to MEM candidate Chloe Hamilton Gilbert. Chloe earned the most high passes of this year's MEM class, and during her time at Dartmouth, she was a teaching assistant for the engineering statistics and capstone courses, as well as research assistant at Tuck using advanced econometric analysis in Python. Congratulations, Chloe. The Master of Engineering Award goes to a degree candidate in recognition of outstanding achievement with special emphasis on academic achievement. This year's award goes to Felix Vint, who earned all high passes, including 3 citations while part of the inaugural online Master of Engineering and Computer Engineering cohort. As a highly engaged student, Felix has provided insights and contributions that have helped shape the future of our online program. Congratulations, Felix. The John C. Woodhouse Engineering Design Prize is awarded for innovation and ingenuity in developing the most inexpensive but effective experimental research equipment. This year's prize goes to the Engine's 8990 team of Calvin Benson, Andrew Brancato, Ophelia Loren, Emmanuel Olasoju, Henry Perrette, and Kelly Shen for a project, Plastics to Farm Fuel, which addressed the more than 1.5 million tons of U.S. agricultural plastic waste generated each year. In partnership with a Johannesburg startup, the team readied the company's pyrolysis machine that converts plastic into crude fuel for U.S. deployment. The team designed, to ASTM standards, a lower-cost back-end fractional distillation system that rivals the performance of commercial benchmarks. Congratulations. The John C. Woodhouse Environmental Engineering Prize is awarded to an individual or a team for the best work in the field of environmental study or research. This year's prize goes to an Engine's 8990 team of Jonathan Sumaili, Elda Zenli, Paul Griffiths, and Liam Cassidy for their project aimed at improving the efficiency and service life of mini-split heat pumps. The team built a cloud-based diagnostic system using existing onboard telemetry to detect airflow restrictions and other faults before major performance losses or premature failure. The team is now actively working with manufacturers to commercialize their system. Congratulations. The Brianna S. Weinstein Engineering Design Prize recognizes a student or team for the design and development of new technologies that benefit people with physical or developmental disabilities. This year's prize goes to the Engines 21 team of Juan Pablo Escobar, Callum Langmuir, Cage Grimes, and Matthias Wall for the augmentive and alternative communication device that helps children with speech inhibited by neuromuscular disease. The team could not be here to accept their award in person. They are watching online, but we offer them our congratulations. The John W. Strobing, PhD Memorial Prize is awarded to a student in recognition of outstanding performance in engineering and medicine. This year's prize goes to Roman Vasiltsev. Roman engineered numerous optoelectronic and clinical prototypes and methods, including the first 3D surface dosimetry system, the first multispectral patient shrink-off imaging system, and the first flash proton therapy in vivo system, which has been deployed at Dartmouth Hitchcock and proton centers across the country. He received 12 professional awards, filed 2 US patents, and first authored 5 peer-reviewed manuscripts and 1 textbook chapter, among other achievements. Congratulations, Roman. The Dartmouth Engineering Prize for Graduate Research Excellence is awarded to a PhD student who has demonstrated outstanding research excellence during their graduate study. This year's prize goes to Huiling Ching. Huiling's work has significantly advanced metal organic framework materials, particularly for energy storage and electrocatalysis. She's authored 5 first-authored publications and has been recognized with numerous competitive honors, including 2nd place in the Materials Research Society Science as Art competition. Congratulations. The Don Stainer Thayer 16 Changemaker Award recognizes a student or student team in any degree program for exemplary achievement in the application of engineering in service to society. This year's prize goes to the Engines 8990 team of Arav Jain, Daniel Gapito, Carolyn Moore, Victor Lundpun. In partnership with Centauri Health, the team developed an AI-enabled tool to help Indiana Medicaid beneficiaries determine whether they qualify for medical frailty exemptions under new work requirement rules. Combining identity verification, data integration, and machine learning with user-centered design, their tool will be deployed in the coming year and expanded to other states. Congratulations. The Dean's Service Award recognizes a student who has made exceptional contributions to Thayer, Dartmouth, or the broader world through research or work in service to society. This year's prize goes to Piper Gilbert. In addition to her accomplishments in the BE program, Piper also helped strengthen the Thayer community through her work on the MEM Council. Piper believes strongly in engineering's power to advance humanitarian causes and has led the council and supported fellow MEM students with both passion and compassion. Congratulations, Piper. The Outstanding Service Award for Staff honors work that has supported and enhanced the student experience, faculty scholarship, or community spirit. This year's prize goes to Chief Financial and Administrative Officer, Tricia Spellman. Tricia is always first to pitch in on tasks big and small, and that's no easy thing given her role. She kept Thayer on solid footing through major leadership changes, along with federal policy shifts and financial uncertainties. And we've had balanced budgets for the last 6 years. In addition, for the last 6 years, she's led the Thayer Investiture Committee to plan and execute this very event we're part of now. We'll miss her as she leaves for a new role at Columbia Climate School, but we're grateful for her service. Thank you, Tricia. The Outstanding Service Award for Faculty honors service and dedication that has enhanced the quality of our education, research, and community. This year's prize goes to Professor Margie Ackerman, whose dedication to the Thayer students and our community run deep. During a period of faculty transition, she absorbed 3 PhD students into her research group, providing supervision, mentorship, and the support they needed to navigate the changes without interrupting their academic progress. That she took this on while continuing to serve as faculty lead for the biological and chemical engineering program area speaks to her community-first leadership. Congratulations and thank you. The Community Impact Award recognizes outstanding leadership with a deep commitment to and determined efforts in building community, reducing barriers, and expanding access to Thayer in support of its educational mission. This award goes to research and learning librarian Gentry Campbell, who's done an exceptional job of leading the inclusive teaching group of the Diversity and Inclusion Committee. She could not be here to accept this award in person, but we offer her our congratulations. The Distinguished Research Award for Faculty honors scholarly achievements, particularly over the past year, that demonstrate notable discoveries or research accomplishments through publication, citation, or issued patents. The award this year goes to Professor Friedon Schubitize. Friedon led the design, development, and validation of his research group's ultralight electromagnetic array for sea, air, and land, used to detect and identify unexploded landmines and buried pipe materials, including lead, without excavation. Professor Schubitize and his team will have successfully conducted in-field demonstrations and will further test with the EPA to the Safe Water Drinking Act standards. Congratulations, Friedon. Each year, we honor the best teacher scholar among our engineering faculty whose commitment to students and love for teaching is unparalleled. I'm honored to present this year's Woodhouse Excellence in Teaching Award to Professor Hélène Tseroussi. I will let her students' remarks speak for themselves. Professor Tseroussi was always open to our questions and always had time to go over anything we didn't understand. She's kind, friendly, and approachable. She's also energetic and passionate about what she's teaching. Her uplifting attitude made me excited to go to every lecture. I'd like to stress just how fantastic Professor Tseroussi was. She really cared about us succeeding in the course. Congratulations. At every investiture, we honor a member of the greater scientific community for distinguished achievement and service in the highest tradition of our school. In 1870, Sylvanus Thayer and Dartmouth President Asa Dodge Smith appointed Robert Fletcher, then a 23-year-old Army lieutenant and West Point math professor, as Thayer's first dean. Throughout his 65 years of service to Thayer, Fletcher championed engineering as a means to improve lives and serve society. This award honors those who exemplify his legacy. Today, we're honored to award Maria Clave, President of Math for America, with the 2026 Robert Fletcher Award. Dr. Clave, will you join me at the podium? Dr. Clave, you've dedicated your life's work to expanding what it means to be an engineer, and more importantly, who gets to be an engineer. As president for Math for America, you currently champion the recruitment and retention of outstanding math and science teachers in public schools across the country to ensure all students from kindergarten through high school have access to strong STEM education. As the first woman president to lead Harvey Mudd College, a premier liberal arts college of engineering, science, and mathematics, you've helped increase both the diversity and caliber of students at the college. By the end of your 17-year tenure, half of the students enrolled were women, and Mudd became one of the most racially diverse colleges in the country. In addition to your career of academic leadership, your research has significantly shaped multiple areas across math and computer science, including functional analysis, discrete mathematics, theoretical computer science, and human-computer interaction. Few have done more to advance STEM education while ensuring more people have a place in it. You've led engineering and STEM institutions that deeply value the liberal arts, and you've spent your career working to transform how we teach math and science at every level to engage and inspire new generations of engineers and scientists. Dr. Kalave, we are honored to present you with the Robert Fletcher Award.
Wow. Good morning and congratulations, everyone. I'm deeply honored to receive the Robert Fletcher Award and also to have the opportunity to address the Thayer School graduates this morning. I feel so lucky to be able to talk to such a talented group of people, just as you are about to move on to the next stage of your life. You have gained much knowledge and experience that will enable you to have significant impact throughout your career. One of your key experiences has been learning and thriving in a diverse community. And I hope you will use that experience to be a change agent who promotes encouragement and support for members of diverse groups wherever you are. I've spent most of my life trying to learn how to create societal change. Much of that comes from being born female instead of male. I was the second daughter out of 4 in my family, and I was absolutely sure that I was supposed to have been born as a boy. At that time, so I will be 75 next month, and thank you. And at that time, life was very gendered. Actually, today it's still pretty gendered, but it's not nearly as gendered as it was 75 years ago. Girls weren't supposed to be good at math. They weren't supposed to want to explore wilderness, to build things in a workshop, or to argue ferociously with their parents. Fortunately, my father also thought I was supposed to be a boy, so he encouraged all of my boy-like activities, except for arguing with him. For many years, I was sure that when I woke up the next day, I would be a boy. But around the age of 9 years old, I gave up. When I finally accepted that it wasn't going to happen, I decided that if I couldn't be a boy, I could try to make it easier for girls to have access to the kinds of things that boys like to do. I planned on majoring in engineering in college because I loved both art and math. And I thought engineering was the best way to combine the two. At the last moment, and I attended the University of Alberta, so I'm Canadian A. And in Canada, you go to your home university. It's not one of these things where you do a college trip and you visit a lot of different places. You go wherever's closest. And I had won the provincial prize for the top student entering engineering that year. I'd also won a national prize called the INCO Scholarship. And this is long before there was online registration. So you would be walking around a gym where there were a couple of representatives from each department, and you would be signing up for the courses in math and physics, et cetera, as you go around. And when I got to the table with the math folks, they told me that engineering majors were not allowed to take the honors math courses, which of course were by far the best math courses. So on the spot, I changed from engineering to honors math. I gave up my engineering scholarship. There's just no way I wasn't going to take the best math courses. There were no female math professors, and even though I did very well in all my math courses, several of my profs asked me why I wanted to be a mathematician, because there were no great female mathematicians, and I had so many other talents. I'm very stubborn, so this just served as encouragement to stay in math. Over time, I realized that I wanted to change the culture of math so women would feel valued and supported. And as my career progressed, I realized culture change was needed in all the other STEM fields as well. And also that women were not the only people who felt excluded. We needed to make sure STEM culture embraced and encouraged everyone, including people of color, people with different sexual orientations, and people from low-income families, and many, many other groups. The main reason I decided to go to Harvey Mudd College as president in 2006 is that I thought its tradition of innovation in pedagogy and curriculum would let it demonstrate that all kinds of people underrepresented in STEM disciplines could thrive in one of the most rigorous undergraduate educations in the country. When I arrived, the student body was 70% male and 70% white. And most of the non-white students were Asian. After 6 years, we were at 50% female, and by the time I left 17 years later, we were at 27% white, so down from 70% to 27% white, and had become one of the racially most diverse colleges in the country. I just want to say this kind of change, I mean, it's not something the president does. It's something that takes a huge amount of work by everyone, including the faculty, staff, students, alumni, and the board. You have to have a community that embraces that change. And I'll just say, when I first arrived at Mudd, okay, so I took the presidency. Did I ever ask anyone that they cared about diversity? No. Why would they hire me if they didn't want somebody who wanted to do something about diversity? Well, they wanted to hire the Dean of Engineering from Princeton. They never asked me about diversity either. So I was sort of surprised when I arrived to find out that they weren't interested in diversity at all. But I was very lucky because I had invited a person named Freeman Hrabowski, who was the first Black scientist to become president of an R1 university. At the time, he was president of the University of Maryland, Baltimore County. And I had him speak in one of the strategic planning workshops that we did in my first 3 months as president. And one of the things I learned from that is that somebody from the outside can say things and be heard in a way that, as president at Harvey Mudd, I couldn't possibly be heard. And he talked about his experience as a young Black boy marching with Martin Luther King at the age of 12. And all of a sudden, the Mudd community went from, we're a merit-based institution, and the reason we don't have more women or people of color is because they don't like a rigorous STEM education, to, oh my goodness, we could be diverse. I don't think I understood the power of a voice of the outsider until that moment. So I often get a lot of credit for increasing the participation of women in computer and science and engineering majors at Harvey Mudd College. But what I want to tell you is, I was not the catalyst. And the reason I'm telling you this story, and I have her permission to tell this story, is because I want you as graduates from Thayer to understand that even after you leave here and go on and start whatever you do next, whether it's going on to graduate school or starting work in a company or being a volunteer in Africa, whatever you choose to do, you can be an agent for change. So the person who really deserves the credit for the change that happened in Harvey Mudd in my first year there, her name is Christine Alvarado, and she did her undergraduate degree at Dartmouth. She studied computer science there and then went on to do her PhD at MIT. She had a fantastic experience at Dartmouth. She felt fully supported and engaged. And when she went to MIT, she was doing her PhD in AI. Yep, they had it even back in the early 2000s. Well, actually, I know the term was invented here a very long time ago. While she was at MIT, the male students told her over and over again, "You're only here, you only got in because you're a girl. And you're not nearly as good as we are." Okay, it's sort of depressing that still happened back in the early 2000s. Does it still happen today? Yeah, I'm sorry to say, but not nearly as much as it used to. So when she joined as an assistant professor at Harvey Mudd in 2005, so 1 year before I arrived, and she found that only between 10 and 15% of our computer science majors were female, she decided to do something about it. Now, she was an assistant professor, she was brand new, she was by far the most junior person in the department. But she convinced the department to change the introductory computer science course that every Mudd student had to take in their first semester. In those days, students arrived in college with widely varying levels of computer science knowledge and experience. Some, mostly male and mostly Asian and white, had a lot of experience, including a college course or two. Some had never taken a computer science course or written a line of code. And of course, females, people of color, and people from low-income families were overrepresented in the group with little experience. The students with less experience did significantly less well in the intro course, and they assumed that they were just not good at computer science. So Piper, your story reminds me of this. Only at the time, they didn't go into a booth and meet somebody else who convinced them that they could solve problems. They just thought they weren't good at computer science, and so they wouldn't take the second course in computer science, CS 60, which was the thing you needed to do if you wanted to become a CS major. Christine Alvarado, the Dartmouth alum, persuaded the department to create a set of intro courses in which every student who was willing to work hard and accept help could learn that they were good at computer science. The new approach to the intro course was launched in 2006, just as I arrived. There were two sections of CS5, gold and black, so like white and green, the colors of Harvey Mudd. Gold was for the students with little or no prior experience, while black was for the students with the equivalent of an AP course in CS before arriving at Mudd. Okay, the choice of the colors gold and black was really important. You would think that gold would be the best course to get into. Well, it was. But black was a good course too. There were students arriving with more than an AP CS course, so they were put in a new course called CS 42 that covered the material from the first two courses in the sequence, CS5 and CS60. And if you're wondering why did they choose the number 42, you should read The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Black and gold covered the same CS material, but there were topics in black that were deliberately, because, I mean, obviously these students had a lot more experience in computer science, and so you could go more quickly through the CS5 material. But the concern was that you didn't want these students in black to go into the same course as the students in gold and have more understanding of the material in the next course. And so all of the extra material in black was things like cryptography or computer graphics, things that you would never see until at the earliest your junior year in the CS major. Thus, both the students from gold and black who chose to take the next course, CS60, would enter it with similar levels of preparation. This resulted in many more females going on to take CS60, and by 2012, so 6 years after the new intro courses were launched, 40% of the CS majors were female, up from 12% when I arrived. Of course, there were other things we did to encourage women to major in computer science, including arranging early internships with tech companies, taking students to the Grace Hopper Conference. Christine Alvarado was also the person who started that, having lots of female speakers in CS seminars, etc. It also helped that we had increased the percentage of females at MUD, but of all the things that were changed, the thing that had by far the most impact was changing that intro CS class. Well, what about engineering? As female students who wanted to major in engineering saw the increased participation by women in computer science, they also entered engineering in much larger numbers. I have to say, computer science was doing somersaults to change their environment to encourage women. Engineering was making almost no changes at the time. But eventually, the female students who went into engineering convinced the department that they had to make similar kinds of changes. So in the end, the engineering department changed its courses, changed the experiences for students, lots and lots of things in order to make the women who majored in engineering feel embraced and supported. So I'm sure you realize that the reason I chose you to tell you about Christine's story is a Dartmouth alum, a junior person who managed to change an entire college as a brand new assistant professor. You can do the same thing. Some of you might be thinking that Christine was a special person, was lucky to have chosen MUD, or other reasons why the story does not really apply to you. Yes, Christine is special and was lucky, though perhaps not so lucky to have chosen to attend MIT at the time she went. But the truth is that each of you is special too. And you are lucky to have chosen to study engineering at the Thayer School. Your success in having impact on the world over the next few years will be partly the result of what you have learned at Dartmouth, but also the result of your commitment to continue learning and working hard, and being willing to ask for and take help when you need it, and also being willing to help others. These are all skills you have developed and applied while at Thayer. Every single one of you is going to have an amazing future. Congratulations, and thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Clave. It's now my honor to commence the conferral of hoods to our degree candidates. BEs and PhDs, when it's your turn, you will approach the platform using the ramp on my right. MEM, MEng, and MS, please use the ramp on my left. Once you've been hooded, pause for a photo and exit down the center ramp. Please welcome Professors Vicky May, Vikrant Vaze, and Eugene Santos, who will assist with the hooding, and Professor Jeff Parker, who will read the names.
For the degree of Bachelor of Engineering, Naomi Mesropian. Callista Lee Adler. Dirk Burton Andrew. Abigail Wilcox Anthus. Kevi Arias. Samuel Aronson. Margaret Kelly McNeil Atkins. McGill Babuena Hines. Tamir Bawin. Michael Betsy Jr. Simon Buxbaum. Ian Boy. Isabella Casaretto. Liam Cassidy. Abigail Larice Chase. Jesse Chan. Abby Clutterbuck. Alex Coquette. Mateo Corrado. Aiden Curtis. Michael Dang. Francesco Dembinski. Zachary Jason Ditzel. Jan Dorvetsky. Aliravan Ishwara Murthy. James Churchill Flaggart. Lydia Friedman. Daniel Kakeli Gapato. Piper Mitchell Gilbert. Claire Sylvia Langdon Green. Paul Jacob Griffiths. Lilia Hammond. Adam Charles McKen Hunt. Tajay McCain Jackson. Arav Jain. Haidar Kerbek. Carolyn Kim. Matthew Tong Young Kim. Colin Kuster. Yil Lee. Jean Carlos Llerena. Gustavo Lopez Fleming. Ophelia Lauren. Lindsay Liu. Connor Mikado. Carolyn Grace Mahoney. Jacob Ramsey Marcus. Nathan Lawrence McAllister. Rory McDowell. Carolyn May Moore. Ian Moore. Christian Nyameche. Doric Ozell. Abigail Beatrice Paquette. Henri Porette. Elizabeth Ann Price. Kevin Sihua Ren. Greta Belinda Richardson. Ava Rosenbaum. William Henry Russell. Anna Solofsky. Oliver William Shapiro. Jenna Sheldon. Yuxing Shen. Tucker Stone. Nathan Ole Sivaj. Matthew Sam Talca. Ryan Tansky. Amelia Tucker. Jack Varney. Ava Hyland. Andrew Wu. Ethan Wu. Claire Yu. Yu. Elda Zenali. Christina Yi Zhao. All right. For the degree of Master of Engineering Management, Mitchell Ellis Beeler. Bavleen Ahuja. Andrea Alvarez Garcia. Kaushika Balaji. Nancy Balani. Sartik Sagar Badkamkar. Aturva Rahendra Bhagwat. Duty Bala. Isan Sai. Nicole Fansai Anita Chara. Tanmay Rahul DK. Min Do. Pranav Reddy Iviki. Madeline Rose Goebel. Siddhi Gothrafkar. Meghna Govind. Chloe Hamilton Gilbert. Chiwei Hua. Rahil Jamal. Sydney Ashton Jones. Deepika Karanji. Saishwar Kumar. Jason Lee. Tim Lee. Yena Lee. Janak Limbachia. Srijith Reddy. Lucy Liu. Jason Adams McLean. Meherzad Neville Motafram. Shrushti Padval. Aturva Patne. Siaviji Puthusheri. Nathan John Roth. Siddhi Nikhil Rajvadkar. Ananya Rungarvajo. Muskan Rastoji. Dia Sabu. Viraj Shah. Shrestha Shetty. Muskan Santosh Singh. Kanagi Sinha. Sahithi Sonati. Carolina Lee Stedman. Tanvi Tigle. Shiva Kumar Tota. Ambika Varma. Vidyut Rugu Vishwanath. Om Jitendra Waghela. Anukriti Yadav. For the degree of Master of Engineering, Emily Jo Marciniak. Pia Isabel Alexander. Joey Arias. Calvin Michael Benson. Nicholas Blanchett. McCoy Young Buchsteiner. Andrew Winspear Burns. Matthew Augusto Gabrejo. Cricket Ann Perrin Cannell. Brandon David Carrido. David Caspi. Salvador Cucho. Philip Cutler. Caroline Rita DeRose. Natalie DiSarbo. Kai Kaneko Etheridge. Jake Freeman. Trevor Anthony Gittas Taplin. Hunter Hamilton. Nolan Holmes. Eva Gabrielle Himes. Sarah Yakovielo. Vishnu Kadiri Sani. Selin Kazmirji. Elizabeth Ann Kendrick. Justin Sang-il Kim. Alexander Christian Koch. Hunter Kui. Justin Lishman. Benson Liu. Carlos Lovera Fogeler. Olivia McField. Felipe Mendoza. Michael Gabriel Maneri. John Murphy. Brandon Okray. Carl Oscar Payas. Camden Reed Parker. Jaden Parker. Samuel John Pasqualoni. Madeline Claire Petro. Tori Andrew Kwan. David Roos. Marzieh Salami. Natalie Schrader. Courtney Sapuka. Naisha Sinha. Zachary Soma. Alexandre Spallone. Konstantin Spirk. Ariana Talia Stematoyanopoulos. Chris Tava. Jordan Van der Meulen. Gabriella Anna Walsh. Tobias Griffin Weissman. Felix Vint. Connor Wood. Chingwen Philip Shie Omali. Patricia Meiwon Yang. For the degree of Master of Science, Taka Ku. Gabriel Landy. Anicia Gabriela Tizipilia. For the degree of Doctor of Philosophy, Simon Andrew Agnew. Yao Chen. Alaire Dusan. Prabhat Hegde. Rachel Huang. Caleb Kwan. Shangda Li. Yang Chia Li. Afton Christine Limburg. Sophie Ann Lloyd. Brunu Anhiki. Gabrielle Rose Moss. Clement Kudekwashe Nyahango. Levi Mika Olevsky. Maximilian Albert Joshua Orman Colmar. Sanjana Hanyam. Ji-yoon Park. Andrew Pike. Quine Ching. Nicholas Shade. Aubrey Tain. Armin Tabacoli. Russell Taylor. Tara Christine Bailey Tomlinson. Roman Vasiltsev.
Let's go to
Ross Warner. Yue Wu. Mengyang Zhao.
While I have your attention, I want to make a couple of important announcements. At the end of the ceremony, graduates, faculty, and platform party, please follow your marshals to the bleachers on the green for class photos over there. Family, friends, and guests, while graduates take their photo, we invite you to head back to the West End Circle for a light reception. And photos and videos from this ceremony will be available on our website in the coming weeks. And if you're taking part in commencement tomorrow, undergraduates earning both the AB and BE assemble at Memorial Field no later than 8:15 a.m., and graduates earning the BE, MEM, MEng, MS, and PhD meet in front of Wentworth Hall by 8:30 a.m., and faculty, please meet near the Hood Museum entrance, also by 8:30 a.m. Now that we have that over with, congratulations, graduates. I'd like to close with a message for the class of 2026. In the few short years since most of your Dartmouth journeys began, our world has changed rapidly. And how do I know? Last week, I actually watched somebody aura farming in the McLean Atrium. And I don't just mean the slang. When you got to Hanover, Claude, Sora, Gemini, they weren't really a thing. AI slop wasn't even part of our vocabulary. And the world is going to continue to evolve far more rapidly than before. It's amplified by AI, quantum computing, and fusion energy in ways that we cannot fully predict. Now that you're about to graduate, I will admit a few things. I'm not certain that everything we taught you here, all that cutting-edge technical stuff, is something you'll use in the future. You'll use a lot, but some of it's going to become obsolete, and for that, I'm not sorry. I also can't predict the yet-to-be-invented tools that you'll use to solve the complex problems that your faculty didn't know existed when they were putting together the syllabi. For that, too, I can't apologize. And I'm admitting this as I prepare to start my own chapter as Thayer's next dean. And Provost, here I will apologize, because I absolutely failed clairvoyance. I can't predict the future. Engineers spend a lot of time thinking about what we're building right now. What problem are we trying to solve? Can we build it? Should we? And if so, how? But more recently, I find myself asking similar questions about all of you. What kind of engineers has Dartmouth built? What kind should we build? If I go back to 1995, when I started my own Dartmouth journey, I completed my assignments on a Power Macintosh that had 16 megabytes, not gigabytes, megabytes of RAM. But at Thayer, I learned how to be an engineer in a world that keeps moving, how to learn and keep learning, even as the ground shifted beneath me. You may start as engineers, but you're never only engineers. What we've taught you is a style of thinking that trains adaptability, an appreciation for the needs of other fields, interconnectedness, and strong communication. Engineers who keep their breath are, by definition, liberally educated. And that's not an accident. That's Dartmouth. Dartmouth engineers are communicators. We're cultural anthropologists, artists, economists, and philosophers. We're diplomats who broker in that messy and viscous space between technology and humanity. And you've learned how to do this from the faculty who embody exactly what makes engineering at Dartmouth special. Professors like Eric Fossum, who this year earned the Draper Prize, one of engineering's highest honors. He's the man who invented the camera on the chip on your phones and nearly every digital camera on Earth. And his brilliance is matched only by his passion for mentoring students and helping them launch innovations of their own. Or Professor Gene Santos, a leading expert on AI-human interaction and intent. His hope for students is simple, that they build not for technology's sake, but for the people who use it, because he said, in the end, AI has to be human-centered. Or Helene Sirisi, who earned the Presidential Early Career Award in Science and Engineering, the highest honor our government gives a researcher at the start of their career. She's traveled to both the Arctic and the Antarctic to help model glaciers and sea level changes over the next century. And earlier this morning, she won Thayer's most prestigious faculty award for teaching. There are many more faculty I haven't named who similarly are expert scholars in their fields, but who model daily what we stand for: impact, education, and human-centered engineering. You know very well who they are. And then there's you. While at Dartmouth, you've designed materials with potential to make fusion energy work at scale, discovered new solar absorber materials for more efficient, low-cost solar cells, developed ways to 3D print bone that can help patients heal from devastating injuries, built models to bring reliable power grids to rural communities, launched companies in women's health, in new energy materials, and more. You have an uncanny ability to find free food anywhere. You started ventures with classmates from Tuck, collaborated with clinicians from Geisel. You've integrated your economics, history, and policy courses from the arts and sciences into how you approach energy equity and access. In other words, you're engineers with a deep understanding of people and society. engineers who see nuance where others see black and white, engineers who bring both real technical skill and real compassion to the hardest problems we have. This is what Dartmouth has built in you. You're the kind of engineers we should be building. No apologies. You're who we need for that future I can't predict. On behalf of all of us at Thayer, thank you for the privilege of being part of your journey, and congratulations. This concludes our ceremony. Graduates, please follow the marshals for class photos at the back of the green. Family and friends, please remain seated until the recessional is over.
back to two more. One more. The walking frog. That frog. Walking frog.